Thank you, Rob. You know, we say in our description of ourselves that we're an open table where all are welcome who share our goal to end homelessness and commit to engaging with respect. We meet each week at this table, virtually for now, and the table metaphor could mean a meeting table, round or square or rectangular, or it could be more like a table for sharing food and conversation. You know, we set the table with regular courses and we bring new items for consideration as they come up. And early on, we thought it would be good to start our time together with a short welcome, connecting our work here to the brighter world and to the issues and concerns of the moment. We also acknowledge that we come to a table situated on the traditional homelands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians who have lived on and stewarded this part of the world since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. I've been honored to have the opportunity to share my thoughts at the beginning of these meetings, and you've heard from me a lot. So I am hoping some of you will be willing to share this welcome message time with me. I'm looking for volunteers and recommendations of folks to provide 2 to 3 minute welcome, relying on your own experience, traditions, inspirations, or concerns. And if you're comfortable doing it, to talk about the meeting norms and welcome new members to the event. I'm happy to set it up however it works for you. And there are so many amazing people here that it can be an opportunity to get to know more of us a little bit better. So let me know directly in the chat through just letting me know there that you might be willing to be contacted for a specific date. And if you have someone else you think would be great to hear from, just let me know that person and I'll say they've been recommended. So I'd like to see us have more variety of opportunity here, and that's my request for today. So in terms of our meeting, we do have a set of norms that help us along as we meet together, sort of the way I guess the utensils at the dinner table might be, but too many metaphors get a little funny, I guess. But so we ask that when you're with us on Zoom that you keep muted if you're not speaking, and that if you're doing other things to turn off your video. Let us know if anyone is having crackling in the background so we can make a request for that to be changed. And also to use the hand feature for asking questions or making comments, or if it doesn't work, if you're on the phone and that isn't very possible, to wave your hands or wave whatever you can do to let Rob know. The thing about the hand is he can kind of keep track of who's had a comment to make earlier. So that helps. And then we also use the chat for conversation during the meeting, for contacts and follow-ups and information and announcements. It's something we save, and you can also save at the end. Sometimes people don't really remember how to do that, but down at the bottom where you send messages to chat, there are 3 little dots that usually allow you to check on that and save it. So that's a possibility for you, and it'll save it into your documents on your computer. So Rob, if you could put those norms up there, that would be great. We have. The second set of community norms is really about how our focus in our conversation. So as always to be aware of how issues of power and equity are in our conversations. And if you have a rectangular table, there used to be at least, there was a head of the table. So we're trying to avoid heads of tables. So round tables are a little more distributive of our leadership. So we need to hold ourselves accountable to that, and to also recognizing there are consequences to things we don't intend to say that we need to be responsible for as well. So with that, I'd like to welcome anyone who's here for the first time or returning here to visit with us and participate with us after being away a while, to just let us know you're here. If you're with an organization, say what that is so we have a little context. And you can also put this information in the chat if you prefer to do it that way. So just unmute yourself at this time if you're new, and introduce who you are.
Hi, my name is Bobby Foster Grayler, and I'm the chair of the Criminal Justice Department at Pierce College. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Bobby, welcome. That's a great picture too. Thank you.
Hello, I'm not new here, but it's been quite some time since I was last here. My name is Kiani, and I am a case manager at the Nativity House Shelter with Catholic Community Services.
Kiani, thank you very much for your work. This is really so important. I'm glad you can be with us.
Hi there. I'm Clinton Brink. I'm a real estate attorney and also a member on the board of the Master Builders Association. My understanding is I may be speaking a little later, but just wanted to introduce myself.
Thanks, Clinton. We look forward to hearing from you. Glad you could come.
My name is Stephanie. I am actually an RN to BSN student working on community health, and this seems to fit my topic perfectly, so I decided to join in.
Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome. And I hope you can share some of your insights with us as well.
Hello, it's Ivan Tudela. I'm a returning member of this coalition and happy to be here. I'm the Access and Functional Needs Coordinator with Pierce County Department of Emergency Management.
Ivan, welcome. It's been great to be working with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ty Dilworth. I'm the Housing Program Manager for Catholic Community Services, and I'm a returning member. It's been a while. It's good to see everybody again.
Hi, Ty. Welcome back.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your work.
Hi, I'm Trisha, and I'm from Greater Lakes Mental Health Care. My partner Jessica is on here as well. We are returning to the meeting today.
Thanks, Trisha. It's good to see you too. And Jessica too.
Hello.
Hello, is this Alfred?
Yes, it is. I am Alfred Kirk. I'm with the Tacoma Tenants Organizing Committee, and we're trying to get ourselves back together and up and running and all that. And I've been to the meetings, but it's been a while.
I remember you being here, Alfred, and I'm glad you're here and welcome, and great work you're doing. So thanks for sharing with us.
All right. Thank you.
Well, Rob, we have lots of new people today or returning folks. So I'll turn it back to you to carry on with the open table.
Thank you, Rosemary, and welcome or welcome back to everybody. It's great to see so many folks this morning. So let's get started with our regular This Week on the Streets segment. What we ask folks to share during this portion of the meeting is updates about what they're seeing as they're interacting with folks out on the streets over the last week. So if there are needs that you think that the larger group either should be aware of or might be able to help with, this is a great place to mention that. And this is an open table, open floor for comments. So just raise your hand either physically if you're on camera or use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. So love to hear what folks are seeing. Monique, great to see you. What do you have for us this week?
Hi, so just a question. Got a lot of people calling for rent assistance. Are there folks on here who do rent assistance? I think Pierce County maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know the resources to send them to out here.
Yeah, let me see. So I don't know that Valerie is back from vacation yet, Valerie Almany.
If nobody's on here, I can give an update on where they are in the processing of applications because I spoke to someone this week.
That'd be helpful, Jenny.
So they are processing applications that were submitted the second week in August. So that's where they're at in the timeline of processing. However, if a client receives an eviction notice, then certainly we can contact them and ask them to escalate that particular application. or if they are to the point where they are at mediation, then the Center for Dispute and Resolution will also contact them and tell them, hey, this person's rental assistance application needs to be pulled to the top and this needs to be escalated. So those are kind of two different avenues. We had a client this week who was at the point of mediation. They submitted their application on August 16th, and they were working on applications submitted August 8th. So that's the timeline where they're at. So they can still, submit rental assistance once the portal was closed because they were doing an update on the portal. The portal should be reopening anytime. And once it reopens, then people can start resubmitting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Jenny. And Lori, is there anything you would add from what you're aware of?
No, I think she got it all right. That's where they are with processing, and don't be freaked out because the portal is closed, because it will be. They had it as of excuse me, as of February 1st, but I think it might even be sooner. So it will be back, and when it comes back, it'll be better.
Great, thank you, Lori. Teresa.
Just to tag on to that, New Connections has a little warm line, and we are getting just the uptick in calls for people looking for rental assistance and people looking for affordable housing. It's really breaking my heart because I get all these calls from people saying my landlord just raised my rent. They gave me the 60-day notice, but 60 days wasn't enough time to find anything I can afford. So I think this is a good thing for us to keep on our radar. It's not just about trying to get people back into housing. It's also how the heck do we keep people from becoming unhoused?
Thank you, Teresa. And Patricia?
I spoke to Northwest Justice Project, I believe it was yesterday. So they are pretty swamped. So just to be aware for the clients that they're now at crisis, but also some of the agencies are at crisis to try to deal with all these upticks. So thank you.
Thank you for that perspective. And Maureen. And you're muted right now, Maureen.
Thank you. Following Teresa's comment, Tacoma schools contacted me. They're seeing large numbers of children moving out of the Tacoma schools as their families get the 60-day rent increase notices. Kids breaking down in class because they're the interpreter for the family, that sort of thing. And going as far out in Pierce County as they can get. So.
Thanks for that update too, Maureen. So Richard, I saw your mention in the chat of the tent fire under the 705 area down in Puyallup Avenue. Thanks for that update and welcome back to town, Richard. And Kathy, I see your hand up.
Yes, I have a question. Do we have safe sites up and running for car campers?
So the answer is yes.
Okay.
You'll see Jan Runback on screen from the Coalition Safe Sites for All committee.
Okay.
You might want to send her a private message. The safe parking sites are available. I'm not sure of the current capacity, but Jan would be able to fill you in. And we will have an update from Jan later in the meeting today too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Others with updates about what they're seeing on the streets. Thank you, Dion. I see your comment in the chat as well. And Colin, it's good to see you in the meeting. We'll come to you to talk about the situation in Fife here shortly. Hopefully you can hang out for about 5-10 minutes. Okay, cool. Great. So anyone else with updates of what they've seen on the streets this week? All right, I don't want to belabor the point. So if you do have other information you'd like to share, you can please use the chat for that. And we will move on to the next item in our agenda. So thank you everybody for the updates. So we are happy to return to doing community spotlight sessions during our meetings every week. And we thank Clinton Brink for joining us from the Master Builders Association. So Clinton, if you'd like to share with us a few minutes about why you're here and how you interact with the issue of homelessness.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, my name is Clinton. I'm a real estate attorney here in Tacoma. Some of the Tacoma pro bono folks in the room may recognize me from the other side of the courtroom because I sometimes represent landlords in eviction cases, which I understand probably makes me a little bit of an outlier. But that's actually kind of the reason I'm here today. I recently had a case with Tacoma pro bono attorney Kathleen Edelheit, who I know is on the call. And she and I, we worked out this kind of creative win-win settlement agreement that was really better for everybody. And I give Kathleen pretty much all the credit for coming up with the idea and making it possible. But that sort of collaboration started me thinking about other common ground that we may share. And so that's why I'm here. The majority of my practice centers around development and land use work. And so at the beginning of the year, I was appointed to become an executive board member on the Master Builders Association of Pierce County. And for those who aren't familiar, the Master Builders Association is the largest group of builders in our area. We have more than 850 members. And from what I understand, our membership is responsible for building the majority of housing in Pierce County. So one of the functions of our group is to advocate for housing policy reforms that make it cheaper and easier to build. And this advocacy work mainly consists of trying to reduce red tape around the permitting process. So as a result of my conversations with Kathleen, I realized that our group probably isn't the only organization that wants to see more housing built. I figure you guys and tenants' rights advocates probably also want to see more housing because it means lower rents and less homelessness. So I'm again obviously pretty new to this group, and so I don't know the extent to which you guys are familiar with sort of the dire housing scarcity we're facing, but that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about here. When I say we have a housing scarcity, I don't just mean we have a scarcity of affordable housing. I mean, there literally are not enough homes in our area for everybody who needs a place to live. And as a result, a certain percentage of the population is pretty much inevitably going to end up homeless. And rents are going to keep going up, and it's going to continue to be, virtually impossible for a certain demographic to purchase their first home. So let me sort of back that up with a few statistics. In the last year, the average price of a house in Tacoma has risen by 21.6%, according to Zillow. And that's kind of an unprecedented, shocking change. To put it into perspective, Tesla stock has only gone up 18% in the last year. So the Tacoma housing market has outpaced, one of the hottest stocks in one of the hottest stock markets in history. And at various times in the last couple of years, Redfin, Como News, and other outlets have all called Tacoma the hottest housing market in the country. There's some competition and debate about which is actually the hottest, but we're certainly right up there. And the reason for this is just simply a lack of housing, more than anything. The recent Pierce County Buildable Lands report shows that we've been underbuilding for the last decade, pretty dramatically. And right now we're about 37,000 units behind our growth targets. So that's 37,000 homes that should exist, but don't, in order to keep up with the demand. Tacoma specifically accounts for 20,000 of that 37,000 unit deficiency. Tacoma Planning recently came out with sort of updated research that reflects that we actually need 60,000 more units by 2040. So over the next 18 years, we need to build 60,000 more units in Tacoma than we currently have. To put that in perspective, we only have 91,000 units now. So we essentially need to build like 2/3 of a new city kind of within the existing city that's mostly already developed. That represents, or that will require, a 6-fold increase in the rate of construction. Like we would literally need to 6x our current construction rate to meet that growth target. So that's sort of the scale of the problem that our industry is faced with to try to meet demand. So, I mean, it kind of goes without saying that this lack of housing is a big contributor to homelessness. I'm sure you're all aware. According to some survey statistics or survey data from Tacoma, it's not just homeless people that are affected. 40% of Tacomans pay more than they can afford in housing every month, and about 1/3 of Tacomans report that they feel insecure in their housing costs and are concerned that they may need to move or be evicted. So in some, the statistics show that we've been underbuilding for a decade. As a result, we're experiencing a lack of housing affordability and a homelessness crisis. If we don't want things to get any worse, we need to urgently build a lot more housing than we're currently building. And the only way we can do that is with some radical policy changes. The master builders, we've been pretty successful with policy changes in the past, but we can't do this alone. We need support from groups like yours to help focus local politicians and officials on the issues that really matter. And so that's, I guess, why I'm here today, is to hopefully get help on some of these policy goals. I did come prepared to talk about one particular policy goal that I would love to get the coalition support on, but I don't know if I have time to sort of discuss that. So I don't know, should I delve into that, or should I leave it there?
So which policy is that? And I'm wondering whether it's something we want to somehow combine in with our advocacy section of the meeting later today.
Sure. Well, I mean, there are probably 100 or 1,000 different things we could collaborate on, but the one I was going to talk about is zoning reform in the city of Tacoma. So
is that the Home in Tacoma phase 2?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. That would be a great topic for us to go over. If you want to provide a brief overview now, I do know that when the time becomes appropriate, we'll definitely want to invite the city staff as well to come brief us on the second phase.
Yeah,
but it'd be great to kind of get an early perspective. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Can I share my screen?
I can give you that, just a second.
Thank you.
Okay, you should have that ability now.
Perfect, thank you. All right. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
All right, so this is a zoning map of the city of Tacoma. You see all the beige areas, pretty much, everything that isn't the port or downtown or the freeway. All of that is single family zoning. And what that means is that you can't build duplexes or triplexes or fourplexes in any of the beige areas. The only thing you can build are sort of typical 1950s style single family residences, white picket fence, 50 feet wide lot, 25-foot front yard, 25-foot backyard, at least 2 parking spaces. That's all you can build in all of the beige areas you see. So with that zoning, you can only fit about 8 units per acre. And compare that to, low-rise multifamily that would support maybe 40 or 50 units per acre. So that's, a 42-ish unit per acre difference between low-rise multifamily and single family. So if we want more units, if we want more housing in the city of Tacoma, it's kind of a no-brainer. We need to allow more apartments in more areas. So, right now, this idea of reducing single family zoning has some inertia behind it in the Home in Tacoma project. And the city council has passed phase 1 of that project, but nothing is sort of set in stone. The Home in Tacoma project is still very much in an exploratory phase, and there's a real concern that it may be watered down. We're sort of facing some initial pushback from interest groups that are against Home in Tacoma, and those interest groups consist of, I think, as far as I know, pretty much exclusively existing homeowners. And existing homeowners, they're a little bit afraid of change. They're concerned about more traffic, burdens on infrastructure, and they're concerned that additional housing will bring down the value of their homes. And to an extent, I can empathize with some of these concerns. I'm a homeowner myself in Tacoma, and if an apartment complex went up right next to my place, that would definitely be annoying. But as you all know, we have bigger concerns. We have people literally dying in the streets because they don't have a place to live, and people getting pushed out to the perimeter, people having to move schools, rampant rent increases. I've been seeing literally hundreds of dollars of rent increases on some of the cases that I've been dealing with. So the voices of existing homeowners are loud, and they have sort of a large platform and a lot of sway with our local politicians. And our group does what it can, but the building industry gets sort of a bad rap. And I think a lot of times it's easy for politicians and officials to ignore us because, we're outnumbered, and, also we have an obvious financial stake in the policies we advocate for. And I think that reduces our credibility. There's a critical voice missing from this conversation, and that's the voice, your voice. It's the voice of all the people who would benefit from more housing. Homeless advocates, tenant advocates, first-time home buyers. We need to hear from these people with respect to this Home in Tacoma project. I think the politicians, the local officials will listen to you. And in fact, some of the existing homeowners may listen to you. If they're not yelling at a developer and they're yelling at a homeless advocate, that would, I think, change the conversation dramatically. So that's my pitch, sort of the first policy that I think maybe we could collaborate on. But if not this, there are, like I said, 100, maybe 1,000 others we could talk about.
Well, thanks, Clinton. I don't know if you saw the chat, but Garrett mentioned that we did, the coalition did sign on to support the initial round of Home in Tacoma back in July of last year. So you're definitely speaking to the right audience, and we appreciate you being here. I think there is definitely a way to collaborate on things like Home in Tacoma. Teresa, I see your hand up.
Yeah, this is just, yes, absolutely. I think there are a lot of people in this room who have actually attended those Home in Tacoma sessions and have lent our voice in support of that, and even the coalition has. But I also think one of the things that I think gets in the way of collaboration with developers is that our focus has consistently been the 0 to 30% AMI group. And I like the fact that you mentioned the stock market, comparing that to housing, because that's one of the biggest chasms between our groups, and I would love to bridge that. But the idea that people who invest in housing ought to be making the kind of hand over fist money that people do who are in the stock market, they want to see that kind of return rapidly. That's a lot of the problem with housing right now, is that investing and expecting stock market returns. So without that changing, I'm not sure how much even adding more housing will change things. So I'd love to talk with you more, and I appreciate that you came, even though this is a little, as you say, it's an interesting collaboration that we need to reach across a lot of these divides. Thank you.
Yeah, I think our two groups make strange bedfellows. Just to, I want to, make sure that I qualify the stock market comparison. I was talking about the existing housing market going up, not the new housing market. So I wasn't talking about the profit developers make. And I think you might, part of the reason that developers build fancy big houses is because they're literally prohibited from building small houses. The lots are minimum 5,000 square feet. To make it pencil, you have to build sort of a luxury product on that lot. So it's partly due to the zoning and partly due to the other costs involved, that building has looked the way it has in the last decade. So.
Thank you, Clinton. And again, we really appreciate you being here, and glad we could carve out a little extra time for you this morning. So thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Colin, I know that your time is short and wanted to get to you while you were still here. So would you like to give us an update on what's going on in Fife with the Gateway project?
Yes, thanks, Rob. So it's good to see everybody. I am, one of the contracts I have now is with WSDOT. So I'm their homeless response manager for basically people living on WSDOT right of ways, specifically along the Gateway project, which goes from the 509, so kind of down in Tacoma. It starts in Tacoma and it's going to end up in Puyallup at the beginning of the 167. So I've been doing that work since September. Lots of huge camps along the WSDOT property in Fife that I've been working with. We've been doing outreach there since early September. We've cleared and removed a total of 6 camps to date. We have two of the larger camps. One of them is basically it's an old mobile home park. Anybody who's familiar with, well, some people have been down there, outreach workers. It's an old mobile home park that has turned into a RV park now. So we probably have, I don't know, at one time there was probably 60 RVs on there. Right now, I'd say we're probably down to somewhere in the 30-ish RV range. One just burnt down last Friday. But anyways, those camps are being removed. They were posted on, we've had outreach and resources to these camps since September, as I said. We've moved a lot of people along. We posted the sites with resources on the 7th of January. So basically a comprehensive list. Basically, it's the coalition list of resources that we have. Many people have taken those resources up. We've moved people into shelters from there. It's a weird spot. So we actually have people that go up to King County for services, and then we have people that go to Pierce County also. There's been a lot of successes. There's a lot of challenges. But what we're left with is 2 camps that are completely unmanageable. They are not what we would think of as typical homeless encampments. It's nothing that I've ever worked with or in over 10 years of work. I wear a bulletproof vest when I go in there. There's shootings on site every day that are reported. So these aren't our typical homeless camps, right? What we're doing is trying to give every individual on the site, and we have been doing this, a positive opportunity to take that positive step, right? But there's just no getting around the fact that what success looks like for my job, for WSDOT, for this community, is those sites being removed and those people leaving those sites, right? What that looks like is many of these people don't consider themselves to be homeless, right? So especially the people in the RVs. So as far as providing resources, we all know RVs are probably the last huge, there's lots of challenges around homelessness, but RVs are the nut that has not been cracked, right? People don't have an answer for RVs. I think there's places like the city of Olympia where I used to work, who is on the verge of opening an RV site. I'm excited to see how that goes and the hope that we can hopefully model something like that in Pierce County. Right now, what we're getting from most of these individuals in the RVs is that they're either going to leave the RVs because they're not their RVs, or else they're going to take the RVs. I shared with Maureen, there actually are there's more RV sites that they can go to than I initially thought. There's people that are moving up to Dash Point that have moved up to Dash Point. There's an Eagle's Nest in the back edge of Eatonville. There's a place called the Lion's Den in Mineral. These places are not close. I'm not going to try to shine it on to you that they are, but this is where people are going, right? And these are some of the options. There's actually a site in Puyallup. There's another one that's getting removed in Puyallup, but there's actually an active site, a mobile home park that people I've heard can go to in Puyallup. Thurston County, there's a few, as I said, Dash Point. So it's not ideal, but these sites are going to be cleared next Wednesday. We posted them on the 18th, so earlier this week. We continue to do outreach there, connect people when we can. We have secure storage set up for everything from a social security card to an RV, right? And anything in between. So we are working with people. An example is we have a disabled veteran that's down there, right? So he has a VASH voucher in King County, right? So he's got the ideal, the golden ticket. Unfortunately, he's having a challenging time finding a place to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to store his RV, and he has a vehicle that him and his wife can go into. They're either going to try to go into a safe parking lot, but they also have a friend that it looks like they're going to be able to go to. So that's examples of positive scenarios of people that we're trying to work with and what that move will look like. Others, I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like, and I'm not going to try to pretend that I do. Are they going to go somewhere else? Most definitely. Where is that going to be? I don't have control over that to some point. I have control over Fife, and they're not going to end up in Fife unless they're on another WASDOT property, which very well could happen also. So I'm working closely with Fife PD on this. They've been a great partner, closely with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department on this, another great partner. Outreach services, most of the outreach, we really look to Trish from Greater Lakes Mental Health as our lead. We have a task force group, which is a really large team of individuals from, yesterday our task force meeting, Jim Baumgart kicked off the meeting and talked for a half hour to us and strategized with us about what we're doing. So we got a lot of people that are a part of this task force. It's a challenging problem. As I can say, I can't stress enough, this is not typical homelessness that I'm used to seeing. And that's not to make an excuse for why we're removing the site. We're removing the site because it simply is not safe for anyone in there or for the businesses or the community around. So I'll shut up and let you guys ask me any questions that you have. Outreach wise, if anybody wants to go out there, we will be out there. I'll be out there today. We'll be out there next week, the weekend. You can also ask, Trish will be out there. If there's anybody that wants to tap into Trish, we'll pull multi-care out there. We'll pull CMAR out there. We've done that before. Some of the, and you'll find out, ideally we can engage some individuals, but also there's just a lot of individuals that want nothing to do with nothing that we have. And that's kind of just what it is. So, yeah.
Thanks, Colin. So let's go to questions. Maureen.
So Colin, thanks for coming and filling everybody in. So if one of the two camps has got about 30 RVs left, how many people in the other camp? And are they all in vehicles also? And does this basically, the last time I heard the lobbyist for the city of Fife testify for the legislature is talking about 200 plus people. Is that what you're looking at?
Great question. Yeah. So, as all of us know, quantifying the amount of individuals on any of these sites is at best challenging, right? This site is extremely mobile because so many people are in vehicles. At the beginning of this project, our estimate was from the beginning to the end of that, which is 4+ miles. Yeah, we're thinking 200-300 individuals. Right now, the ultimate goal with all these individuals is I do a survey, 5-question survey. So it's a survey and assessments. We're assessing the site. An example is I'm doing a survey. I'm talking to a lady who has a black eye. We pull her to the side. She's now in the YWCA DV shelter, so in King County. So we were able to pull her out of there. So that is assessing the area while we're doing the surveys when we can get in and do that. So how many people are out there right now? I would say between 50 and 100 in this specific area. Are there, as far as Levy, what he's talking about that larger, broader number of the whole area, and also of the 6 sites that we moved, which I will also let you know, many of the people from the initial site removals have moved into some of these sites. So that, and I've known that that's going to happen, and that will continue to happen as we move down the slow and painful process, as we know, of kind of the I hate to say whack-a-mole, but some of the process that looks like that. This is different than that. That's states trying to do stuff different. That's why they brought me on. I've worked with the state for over 10 years in my government roles. They've never done anything like hire a homeless response manager. So is it perfect? No, it's not right now. It is not at all. Maureen, you were on the call yesterday. I think there's a lot of optimism hearing what the governor is trying to do. $185 million specifically for this group of individuals, for flexible funds to connect them to housing services, shelter services. Fife is doing some, for as small as Fife is doing some very innovative stuff. And we're also placing people into Fife's program. So they have an employment program they're running, which is a managed outdoor, it's a tent city. So they have a small tent city, you get a job through Fife Parks Department, which is great. That's came from all the people that are in these sites, right? Or the sites adjacent to it that Trish has been a catalyst behind a lot of that work too. So there's neat things going on. Is Fife's employment program going to take care of this problem? Heck no, it's not. But it's a model, just like safe parking. Ideally, we pilot it, we find something that works, and we try to bring that to scale. Fife is in the process with the county of getting a hotel, just like the city of Tacoma or Pierce County has done in Tacoma. Will that be super helpful? Heck yes, that'll definitely help us out. So these are all things that we're trying to do. But as far as what my work right here is doing is clearing these sites, removing these sites, reclaiming these sites, because what's coming behind these sites, the difference from this site to say another site, 34th and Pacific Highway, is this is a construction site. They're building a damn freeway. So there's crews moving dirt across the street already for this project. So these aren't sites where people can be. Anybody who's been down there, and I'll let Trish if she has anything to say, but I mean, these sites are 3 feet, some of them are 3 feet underwater right now. So they're not habitable on 7 different levels. So yeah. I don't know if there's any other questions. Trish, I know you're here, and your hand's raised too. So
Yeah, he has a question.
So actually one of the things I did want to share about Fife, another unique, well, 2 unique things is that since COVID happened in the pandemic, every place that people could go to get contraceptives, health department, Planned Parenthood, DSHS, any of those agencies were closed. And we are now seeing a rapid increase in pregnant using females that are on the street because people could not go get the things they normally would use. And Fife specifically in that one block of area that Colin talked about clearing, it's literally one block of the city. We removed 5 pregnant females there, and all 5 of them did go to Swedish or to an outside agency to get help, had healthy babies. Not all of them were able to keep their children, but we didn't have any babies delivered out there. We didn't have any babies that were delivered without care. We did bring multi-care down with an ultrasound machine to one of the camps because the female was so unable to go in and get care, and we literally did an ultrasound out there in the homeless encampment to find out how far along she was, learned that she needed to have a C-section because of other medical conditions, that had she gone into labor out in that camp, she'd have died. She's now at a shelter with the dad and the baby's healthy and the mom's clean and things are going well. But for most of our folks that are experiencing that down there, they're not candidates for the shelter. They have criminal histories, they have substance use issues, they don't have IDs, they have so much else going on that we are literally scrambling to figure that out. And then also the age range there is huge. We have removed several families with children. And we also have an elderly population out there that has significant medical conditions. One of them, we brought the ultrasound machine out again, and they did an echo on somebody out there in the camp and took her to the emergency room. Her heart was so bad. We have somebody out there that's got Huntington's disease. I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's hell. And trying to convince that person to get off the drugs and come inside is nearly impossible. And so we are dealing with the most unique situations ever. And we have been engaging these folks for a very, very long time. And it has literally taken all of these people together to make any sort of progress down there. So I know people are looking at the numbers that are still there. I'm not lying when I tell you, we had one client, we had to make, I don't know, Colin, you were there with us, 13, 14 calls to get some help for them before we could get a person to answer the phone. And so It's also a unique situation area-wise. It's the I-5 corridor. It is where the port is. It's truck stop city. We have people that are being discharged from SCORE in King County that get dropped off by cabs down there, and then Pierce County. And so we have this very unique, diverse group of people. And it is definitely the most unique, insane thing I've seen in my entire career.
Thank you, Trish.
Yeah, and I don't know if there, yeah, so any other questions, you know, like I said, anybody who's interested in doing outreach down there, come down. I'm going out. I think actually Councilmember Rumbaugh is going out there on Monday with me to check it out, because City of Tacoma has been a great partner on this. I've worked closely with Allison Griffith. We also, I mean, the first sites that we had were the 4th Street cul-de-sac, which Trish showed me, and she said, we don't go down there without police. I mean, so I just can't estimate, and it's not to paint this as these are all bad people. This paintbrush is not wide, but what I tell you is there's a criminal element that has shown up in this area that has come from all over. An example, we had 2 quads that got stolen from Edgewood from a disabled veteran. We found them at this site. They have pulled 40, getting close to 50 vehicles, like nice vehicles, out of this site. 50 catalytic converters, you know, every single day are getting pulled out of this site. Sex trafficking is happening at this site. We have teenage girls stumbling out of the site. I mean, Trish she was very censored in the stories that she told, but it's a scary site. And you know, our goal, as Trish said, we pulled families out of there, is to get the focus on the individuals in there that really shouldn't be in there, and let's get them out of there and get them to a positive and a safe place, while also, you know, this community is, you wouldn't believe the stories from this community. It's absolutely, it's terrible what they're dealing with. So we got a lot of work to do, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at with this.
All right, thanks for that update, Colin. And if we can, well, as you know, if we can be a resource in some way, a lot of us are here, so. All right, so let's move on to the next item in the agenda. I'm going to shuffle things around a little bit because we're running long. So Maureen, can you do your advocacy update now, and we will do our breakout session after the government updates?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Fortunately, we have nothing to work on. So we're finishing the second week of the state legislative session, and I'm forwarding what I get from the Alliance, whatever your particular interest is. If there's a statewide advocacy group, you should be on their listservs so that you can follow those particular bills. It looks like the youth homelessness bills are moving pretty well. I am not trying to follow all the bills at all, even the ones that we are concerned about. Right now, I'm targeting 2 that are of immediate interest to us and to us in Pierce County. One of those is 5662, and that is the governor's bill on the encampments, on state-owned public rights of way. Remember, that's a very narrow definition on this bill. It's not all the property state agencies own, it's the public rights of way. So along with the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, the Seattle King County Coalition on Homelessness, I testified on our behalf 10 days ago or whatever it was, with signing in other, which means you have concerns. You're neither pro the bill nor against the bill, con, but you've got some concerns. And so as a result, and we did, each of us offer to meet with the bill sponsor, Senator Cooterer, and others. Senator Trudeau is number 2 on that sponsorship list. And the governor's office in whatever way, you know, could be helpful improving the bill. And so the governor's office did convene us. Jim Baumgartner, who Colin just spoke about, convened us Monday afternoon. And we met at some length, everyone who had testified. And Jim promised that he would take into account our concerns and provide us with a revised draft, which he did late yesterday. And then he would convene us again. And so this bill is high priority for the governor, and it does have funding associated with it. In a nutshell, it creates a coordinating intergovernmental office in DSHS. Flowing from that will be regional offices, which do not mean a county by county. They mean multiple counties. And these regional offices will hire and will manage regional outreach teams to encampments on state-owned public rights of way. And we spent a fair amount of time talking through how those might work. So of particular interest to those of us on the homelessness community, Jim did add to the bill, to the legislative intent, the recognition that it is the state's intent that Martin v. Boise be followed, and that it is also consistent with the values of the state of Washington. So that's one piece. The other piece is that we did get in the recognition of people with lived experience as full participants in the processes at the different levels. Also volunteer organizations as distinct from government funded organizations. And then also there's anti-criminalization language. So I haven't, it came out so late last night, I haven't heard from the others in the group. We will meet again. As I read it, I think it looks clearer than it was. I think it's consistent with what we can support, but we will see when we hear back from Nick Federici and Michelle Thomas, our lead advocates for the Alliance and our leads on this bill. And it does make clear also that nothing in this bill interferes with the existing contractual relationships or MOUs that state agencies already have with various cities. The Department of Transportation has MOUs with a number, or official agreements with a number of cities across the state. And so this is not intended to interfere with those. It is not intended to interfere with any work that is going on already within the community. It's intended to add a dimension and on the outreach side. And it's also intended, except in cases of public safety and public health and safety, to begin the conversations among the various partners with the resources that are available, not just in the public sector, but also in the philanthropic center before any outreach is done to people living in the encampment. So outreach teams go out knowing what they have available. Part of the reason to put it in DSHS is they're the people who do individual direct services. And the thought was that they could close the gap on eligibility for benefits by having them right in the mix of things from the beginning. So 5662, there'll be a meeting, the governor's office, and there will be a hearing on the revised bill. And then, it's going to move. So it's just a matter of watching it and paying attention to make sure that nothing in it precludes our ability to do the work that we're trying to do. Jeffrey, I see your hand, but I just want to run through these and then I'll take questions on all of them if that's okay. Okay, the second one is 1620 because that's Mary Levitt's bill out of the 28th. And that's the extreme weather bill, which basically puts money into, well, no, the bill doesn't. The bill calls for grants. The money would have to come out of the budget on the budget side. But the grants right now would be located within a Department of Commerce. They would go to jurisdictions who would apply for them so that they can respond to the needs of unsheltered people during extreme weather. And this is something good, I think. It's something that fits in with everything we're trying to do. My hope is that, because remember, we've got 23 jurisdictions in Pierce County, each with their own emergency response plan. So if even a third of these jurisdictions qualify for these grants and get them, we're that much farther along in having a consistent, coordinated kind of emergency weather, extreme weather response. So, which would help all of us, especially those of you who work across all these different jurisdictions in the county. That one's going to have a hearing and appropriations on Monday afternoon, and I will sign in and or testify probably in support on our behalf. There are three other, well, the governor's budget's a deal. Clinton, have the master builders sign in on the governor's budget. It's, I mean, that money will make a huge difference on capital side and on operations side, all right? Across the homelessness and extremely low income housing end, all right? So that's one thing. So three things that I think that we really need to pay attention to going forward that are just like standing issues. And I think Colin and Tricia talking about their experience with Fife is a perfect lead in on part of it. And that's this whole outreach arena. And I know that Pierce County Human Services is beginning to deal with this. And I know that we've been dealing with it because of the high numbers of volunteers, both organizations and individuals, everybody from faith-based through the far activist groups going out to encampments, whether those are onesies and twosies or those are large encampments, and trying to help the people who are living in them. And so how do we use the volunteer resources that we have to support the funded outreach resources that are available to meet the needs of the people in encampments, both their immediate health and safety needs, but also their long-term permanent housing needs. So just, and it's not a one-off conversation. It's think about it and think about how we move this forward. That's one. The other one is prevention. All right. We do not have prevention as part of our homelessness response system. Hopefully that changes when the comp plan to end homelessness is fully endorsed by the council and Garrett begins the implementation. We have the rental assistance portion, but we don't have that by policy. We have that because the feds gave us a ton of money, and so did the state. And so now we've got over $100 million worth of experience with rental assistance and more coming. But it's not just the rental assistance that's prevention. It's all of those systems. And it's so, you know, it's Dionne saying the number of calls she's getting. It's the school district coming and saying, what do we do about the children? And yes, McKinney-Vento will transport them from wherever. But if they're in Orting now and their home school is in South Tacoma, that's a long trip. All right. So sometimes the law and the policy are not always what's best for the individual. So I went out on the listserv, over 700 review, asking for housing navigators that are not tied to somebody in the homelessness system. All right. I'm waiting for responses. I'll take any. I got two, neither of which are going to work, but I'm starting like you. I'm getting these pleas coming in. On the brighter side, on the mobile home park people, the Meridian Estates people in Puyallup, it's my understanding they do have a client. Northwest Justice has a client, and they will be having an informational meeting with the homeowners. You all got the job announcement. The city of Puyallup is adding 2 temporary part-time case managers to work with the households. These homeowners are still determined to try to purchase their park. They want to stay together. They want to keep their homes. One man is a grape arbor he's put in. He's been there 16 years. So this is not simple, but it falls under that whole outline of what does prevention look like. And the third thing on my immediate list then is the emergency response to extreme weather. And honestly, I don't know if we can make the case that encampments at a certain level ought to be an emergency response sort of thing as well. I don't know, but for sure, extreme weather. So the small group that I'm a part of begins meeting again today. And Ivan may talk about that a little bit, I don't know. We begin meeting again today, and we'll do another kind of after action. I've got the comments that you all provided 2 weeks ago when the small groups broke into an after action on the extreme weather. If there is anything else, put it in the chat now. And all right, so yeah, the list can go on, but that's the immediate. So Jeffrey and then Trish.
Good morning. There's two other bills I think that interesting. SB 5867, which cities over 50,000 to have appropriate shelters based on the pit count, the previous pit count. That and another one, and not everybody will get this one, but SB 5838. And this is to add diapers to TANF payments. Both of these, I think, will help not necessarily here in Pierce County, but will help hopefully eliminate one area of problem for other parts of the state. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Trish.
Hey, I just was looking for some clarification. I've heard a few times, like in the emergency meetings we had during the weather stuff, and then I heard you say it again today about how the funded outreach teams can help the volunteer teams. What exactly does that mean? Because I know we're a funded team, but I'll tell you this, we don't have even a third of the amount of money that we need to do to complete what we're doing in our jobs. And we certainly don't do our jobs for the money. I can promise you that right now, that we are pay is not why we're here. So when you say that, I kind of cringe a little because, you know, Jessica and I have to go to our foundation and we advocate for grants and for extra funds however we can. I mean, would that be something to put a NOFA together for a volunteer NOFA? Because at this point, if a volunteer agency called me and said, or, you know, volunteers called and said they needed supplies, as much as I would love to say, awesome, that's definitely not going to be our response. I mean, we don't have enough to do. And not only that, but our funds that we do have that make us a funded team are so strict on what we can spend it on. We can't spend it on motels. We can't spend it on certain things. We can't spend it on moving expenses. And so what is it exactly that you're referring to when you say that the funded teams can help the non-funded teams?
Thanks, Tricia. So I think there are several things, and I think it's, you know, we're not going to get through it all in this time right now, but a couple of things happened during the extreme weather. And Garrett, I think Garrett's on, so he can speak to some of this, but part of it was there was additional money available there. Now the needs of the funded teams that I didn't know. I wasn't privy to. The needs of volunteer teams, I was privy to. And so the question was, how could we get basic resources to the volunteers who were going out? And we knew we could get water through the city of Tacoma, but that wasn't convenient for everybody, just in terms of travel and things. And we couldn't go out for an all-call request for contributions of blankets and socks or hand warmers because we didn't have any place for people to bring them. So we simply said to everybody, donate to your usual organization, find out what they need. But one of the things that emerged was that the Pierce County Human Services said that organizations that already had a contract with the county could in fact purchase supplies and make them available to the volunteer organizations. But again, that relied on the organizations with a contract to have the organizational capacity, the bandwidth, to be able to do one more thing in the middle of this emergency weather. So I think what it is, it's an open question. And you've just expanded it right now. And it's, how do we make sure as a coalition, how do we make sure that if you have a contract with the county to provide outreach services, anytime you have everything you need, or the city, you have a city contract, whatever, or it's a state contract, federal, whatever level that contract is, that you have everything you need to do your work as efficiently as possible. So you're not scrambling for these basic supplies and basic resources that you require to do your work professionally well. All right. That's one part of it. The other part of it is, how do we get supplies to the volunteer outreach folks who are going out and augmenting everything that the teams with contracts have, the organization with contracts have? So how do we do that? And how do we get ahead of weather? Because it doesn't just appear. We have lead time on weather now. And so how do we get ahead of it so that everybody who's going out has what they need, so none of their time is scrambling, trying to find one more blanket that's a winter blanket, or one more set of tarps at a decent price kind of thing. And in that overall is also the whole transportation piece. I mean, Sherry Jensen went out begging for help to get shelter workers to and from work from their homes. And my guess is the same was true with at least some of the outreach folks going out who simply couldn't get where they needed to be because they didn't have the vehicles. But DEM, the EOC, has volunteer 4x4s for the doctors and the medical people. All right. My point being, they can probably buy their own. But anyway, that being said, where are these pieces that we know enough to be able to advocate for systems changes that make it work? So Trish, we're not asking you to do more with less, believe me. We want to get you more so you can do what you want to be able to do. And we want to figure out a way that Ed and Jeffrey and Food Not Bombs and the People's Assembly and Serve the People and Rich Berghammer and Teresa and everybody else who's out there on a volunteer basis can get what they need easily to be able to, I mean, in extreme weather, we're talking about keeping people alive. So does that help?
All right, thanks, Maureen. That's a really rich conversation, and glad that we're able to have it this morning. I see Ivan wanted to add something as well. Go ahead, Ivan.
Hey, Maureen, thank you so much. And then I did hear you mention our emergency planning meeting that we have every Friday that we're going to be meeting this afternoon. And I'll talk more about that when it's my time on the agenda. But I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. I think the first step to everything you mentioned is planning, right? Right now, we've gotten through the worst part of the winter, knocking on wood, but we are aware in Pierce County, we will have this event twice a year, and homelessness will continue to be an issue moving forward. There are discussions we can have today, looking at available resources and partnerships and networks today to discuss what would happen in the event of an extreme heat wave condition. The biggest issue and the one thing that we're having discussions with community-based organizations and other jurisdictions is triggers. At what point will different organizations reach or exhaust their resources during an extreme weather event where they will elevate needs up to a jurisdiction for additional support? But what does that look like, and when do we do that, and when do we step in, is the conversations we're having weekly. And I'm very excited about that because since we stood up those meetings, communication has improved greatly. And I think we saw that during the recent winter weather response. I just wanted to piggyback what Maureen said and agree completely that there's an opportunity here.
Thank you, Ivan. So if there are additional thoughts on this, please use the chat. I do recognize we're about 10 minutes past our agenda time for doing government updates. So I'm going to shift gears over to that. And before we lose folks off the call, and And again, we will come back and do our breakout discussion and short poll right after the government update. So those who are looking forward to that, that is coming up next. So first in our government updates, I will paste information from the city of Tacoma that was shared with me via email last night from Allison Griffith. I did ask Allison how things are going in the city in adding the additional staff to the department where she works in community and neighborhood services. And she said that they do intend, once they are staffed up, to have somebody from the city on these calls going forward. So I just wanted to share that because I know some folks were wondering, why is the city not here? And essentially it's just because they don't have the staffing capability at this time and conflicting meetings. So like I said, I'll paste the information from the city into the chat. There is some interesting information there, including details about a community vitality and safety committee meeting next Thursday that will be of interest to many of us. A short update about Aspen Court, and then an update on encampment outreach. Let's move to the folks who are here. So I saw earlier in the call, Jeff Rogers was on the call. Jeff, you're still here and have an update for us?
Yeah, good morning. The only thing that we have an update on is our homeless point and time count. That is next week. If you're not aware, the homeless point and time count will be done next Thursday, January 27th and Friday, January 28th. We're working to assign folks their locations they will visit. Training has been completed. We did trainings for the last 3 days. We're again using the app on the phone called Counting Us. So we're really excited to do the count this year, because we didn't do a count last year, and we need to get an accurate count to get a true reflection of the number of people on one night who are homeless here in Pierce County. So we're working hard. Many people on this call are working with the county to make this a very successful point in time count. And yeah, that's the update we have. I'll just put a little quick thing out there that we have a funding cycle that's called our Homeless Housing Program funding. It's a large amount of funding we put out annually. We did not put those funds out last year due to COVID and the pandemic. Most folks in government that were doing any type of funding were busy putting out new funds that have been committed to different jurisdictions. So we've put money out, but not our standard routine homeless housing program funding. That notice of funding availability will be going out soon. So pay attention if you're interested in funding from us, because that is our big annual funding allocation of money that we put out. There will be some new things put into that funding opportunity that aren't part of our current funding work that we do. So just a heads up, it's coming out. I'll let you know when it's officially released, but it's coming soon.
Thank you, Jeff. And we've already talked about Pierce County rental assistance, brief update from Lori and Jenny about where things are at. To their knowledge, again, Valerie's out on vacation, well-earned vacation right now, so I presume she's going to be back next week. Next up, I have Jenny, who's back with us from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. Jenny, you have updates for us?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's really good to be back with you all. I've been out for 2 weeks, some family medical leave. So thanks for your patience. If there are questions that I cannot answer, I will certainly find out the answers for you. I've got some support on the call too from our community engagement team. I'm going to have Rachel give a little short report about PPE after I give my normal report. Just want to remind everybody before I jump into things that Rachel Hauser from Community Engagement has been, hopefully you've seen her weekly emails that she's been sending out to the listserv, they sort of are a digest of some to most of the information that I share on these calls with links. So hopefully those have been helpful. If you have any comments or feedback or other things you'd like to see in that weekly email, we are open to that feedback. So let us know. And if you're not on the listserv, I'm assuming everyone here is on the listserv, but get on the listserv. So Jeff mentioned on the point in time count, we were fortunate enough to be invited to participate in the trainings with that. So we shared, Rachel and I joined Jeff and his team giving safety information about COVID to hopefully keep volunteers and participants cognizant of COVID risks and being safe out there while they're volunteering. So that was really fun. So I want to thank Jeff and team for inviting us to participate in that. As always, I kind of start this report out by saying get vaccinated. I really hope everyone here is vaccinated and boosted. The data, not only local data, but across the country and the world, is showing that the greatest impacts from COVID, and we haven't peaked just yet, but the greatest impacts are on unvaccinated people. So really, really compelling data on hospitalizations, death, and so we need to get everyone vaccinated. As always, we'll share links in the chat, but our vaccine page is updated regularly. If you've had Pfizer or Moderna, you've had your 2 shots, you're eligible for a booster 5 months after you've got that second shot and 2 months after your 1-shot J&J. So please do that. And if you have questions, reach out to Rachel or myself. We're also in flu season. Our flu season has been less impactful than in past years, but we will share our flu page. So please get vaccinated for against influenza if you have not already done that. We know that COVID testing has been a big frustration really in the community for folks. There've been long lines. There are lots of issues with testing because the demand for testing is so high. So our testing team has been working really, really hard on standing up and more resources and supporting more resources. The Canyon Road site will be up again, I think Monday. We're working on 2 additional sites in the next couple weeks. One will be out on the peninsula and Key Peninsula. I'll share links to how you can fill out a form if you need tests, or you can email the testing team. Hopefully everyone knows this, but you can get free rapid antigen testing at Tacoma Public Library locations, Puyallup Public Library locations, as well as Pierce County Library System locations while supplies last. And then finally, just, our testing webpage is being updated by our communications and testing team every day. So please check that out. And again, I'll share links. Isolation quarantine. If you know someone who needs a safe place to quarantine or isolate because they are COVID positive or they've been exposed and they're awaiting a test result, the number to call is still the Aristo line, which I will share. We are kind of holding steady with our capacity on that. I know everyone who needs it is not able to get in, but we're continuing to work on making sure we have capacity to help folks locate a safe place to isolate or quarantine. Whew, that was a lot. Glad to be back with you all. I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to share some information about ordering PPE, personal protective equipment. And then if you have questions for Rachel or myself, let us know. Thanks, Rob.
Jenny.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Good morning, everyone. So quick update as far as PPE goes. 2 separate things. First, if you are a community organization and you need help getting different PPE items, you can actually request those through Pierce County Emergency Operations Center. So there's a link through the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. I'm going to post that. You're just going to follow the little instructions on the webpage, complete a form, email it in, and you're just requesting items that way. That is just for general community organizations that need assistance with PPE items. As far as for our shelter providers, it is a little bit different. I had sent out some correspondence for you related to accessing the Washington Department of Health PPE supplies. And we've updated our process just a little bit for that. This is just for the shelter providers, shelter and day center providers. The orders that have already been placed, you've already been in contact with me. That's not affected by that unless we've been in correspondence. But we're now going to have a form that you'll just fill out, and we'll email that out to the listserv following the meeting. It's just going to be an open quantity field. Case size isn't going to matter. You're simply entering the quantity that you're needing. And then N95s, excuse me, are limited right now. We're expecting to see some restrictions with that. We're also going to include a prioritization list that we're going off of, so you understand who those are being allocated to first. Those are typically coming in packs of 20. I think the KN90s are in 50 or 100 packs. Those surgical masks typically in 100 or 1,000 counts. We are asking that you limit the request to 2 to 4 times what your total patient or client and staff count is. There is a lot of community requests going in for these things right now. So just having you limit a little bit if you can. And hopefully we can keep these things going out. But yeah, so 2 separate things, just to quickly recap. Community organizations will be ordering or placing requests through a link on Tacoma Pierce County Health Department webpage. Shelter providers will be filling out a form, and that will be sent out. Any questions about that? Okay, cool. And always send me an email if you have anything you think of. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's shift gears over to the Pierce County Department of Emergency Management. Ivan.
Thank you, Rob. I don't have any huge ground-shattering updates other than our testing sites at Spanaway Park. The final day of operation will be tomorrow, but we will have an additional site stood up in DuPont here pretty soon, and that information will be updated on our emergency management website. Here's that link. Additionally, on that website is information on how to order the free at-home COVID testing kits that Jenny mentioned as well. And then just for everyone's awareness, I am happy to report, at least on the drive-through testing sites that we operate, that we have seen a downtick in demand. So I'm taking that as, since the at-home kits now are available, that's kind of offsetting the demand a bit. But I am also noticing a lot of folks are being sent there by their employer and their school as well. So lots of folks are being tested, and I'm just happy to see that we are meeting that in the field. So I'll stop for any questions. Thank you all.
No,
Yeah, thanks, Ivan.
Oh,
Ivan,
yeah, Jan. Go ahead. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the FAST team?
Oh, yes, I mentioned that last week. Unfortunately, currently the dates are next Thursday and Friday, and I am well aware that that conflicts with the point in time count event, but let me plug the flyer, and everything you need to know about the FAST team is in this flyer, as well as how to sign up for the training. Basically, the FAST team, it stands for Functional Assessment Service Team. This is a team of trained professionals who are willing and able to be deployed to an emergency shelter stood up by the county or any jurisdiction that is requesting the FAST team members. I am currently actively recruiting folks who support unsheltered community members or work in that field, just because I'm recruiting an interdisciplinary regional class of students this year. So yep, everything you need is in that flyer. To learn more, visit my website at Pierce County Emergency Management on the Access and Functional Needs page. There's a 2-hour overview YouTube video that just basically explains everything about FAST. But I'll stand by and answer any burning questions if you guys might have any.
All right, thanks, Ivan.
Yep, no problem.
All right, so let's get back to the breakout conversation, followed by a short poll, and then we'll fill out the rest of our meeting after that. What we wanted to cover in our breakout today was to talk a little bit about what are 3 opportunities you see for the coalition in the next year, over the next year. So the point of these breakout discussions is I split everybody into rooms of 5 or 6 people, and we're trying to both consider the question as well as just get to know each other. So we like to have networking opportunities, especially for anybody who's new to the meetings or rejoining after being away for a while. So the only request is if somebody in each chat room can take some notes, you can paste those notes back into the chat when we get back to the main room. And that information can be used to help inform our work here over the next, over the rest of 2022. So let me set up the breakout rooms. And what we will do is we will spend about 10 minutes. Originally, I thought that I would have us do a little more time, but I don't want to cut our meeting too short. So I am opening the rooms now, and I hope everybody has a good conversation. I will bring everybody back at 10:36. Welcome back, everybody. You caught us in the middle of ongoing conversation that we were having in the main room. So I hope everybody had a good conversation. Please do drop the notes that you took in each of the rooms into the chat so that we can be made aware of what good things you were talking about. And let's shift gears while you're pasting that in to a poll question that the steering committee folks talked about on Wednesday and Garrett created this morning. So let me launch this poll. This is a multiple choice poll about how the community should spend dollars to address homelessness. So launching that now. And we can all multitask and paste things into the chat while also voting.
So many options. So the idea behind this, I'm going to take over, Rob. The idea is, all right, I got $10 million extra, say hypothetical. Okay, I really do. And how should we be prioritizing? And we've talked before, we've had almost the same poll before. I'd love you to pick 3 things that matter the most to you right now. I almost feel like these priorities change over time. And we can peanut butter it, put a little bit everywhere. We can focus in on certain things. But yeah, I'd love your thoughts, right? So again, rent assistance is just pumping money into households at risk. You know, allow, basically extending the second one, allow at risk of homeless doubled up to use the homeless system, right? That's something we don't do. Maureen was talking about that challenge. We've talked about it a long time. If you're paying for your own home motel stay for 3 nights, we don't help you. That's kind of crappy. But also if you're going to get evicted in a week, we don't help you. That's kind of crappy. Like not even financial, just let's talk about options. The rest are pretty straightforward.
All right, so it looks like about 30 of us, yeah, thank you for participating. We're up to 68, 70% participating. So we'll give this just a little more time and then share the results here in a moment. All right, it looks like we are up to 42 out of 48 of us. I'll give 5 more seconds. And let's share the results. So it looks like 69% saying we should build more affordable housing. 43% saying permanent supportive housing. 36% about allow at-risk homelessness double up to use the homeless system. Shelter for 33%. And then on down to rent assistance at 26%. So very interesting results. I'm going to do a quick screenshot of this so I have it. And shift gears to an update from the Safe Sites Committee with Jan Runbeck. Jan, can you give us an update?
Yes, we have 4 very active sites. On the website is the contact information for Paula Anderson for applicants for potential placement in one of our sites. And everybody is welcome to join us Monday at noon to Zoom. Go to the website for the Zoom address. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. And anybody with questions regarding Safe Sites or questions for the Safe Sites Committee? Give that just a moment. All right, not seeing any. Let's shift over to coalition committee updates. Any of the coalition committees have something to share this week? Rosemary.
This is just a very quick comment. The Race and Equity Committee will be meeting on February 3rd at 3 p.m. So if you're interested in working with us on outreach issues and holding ourselves accountable to the important issues of equity, that's a good place to join us. We welcome anybody who wants to share with us. That will be on the coalition page that you can sign up whenever you're able to, but February 3rd, 3 to 4 p.m. Secondly, the governance work group is completing a description of the coalition as best we can. That is who it is we are right now. As a preliminary to ongoing discussions, we hope to have soon about any decisions we may make for changes in the way we do things or our priorities. And the comments today from the breakout sessions will be very useful as we think about missions and visions and values and practical ways to be. So if you're interested in having some of those conversations, coming to the steering committee meetings on Wednesday at 3 is a good time because we are devoting some time to that discussion right now. So that's it.
Thank you, Rosemary. And just as a reminder, if anybody has the desire to drop in on any of the committee meetings, coalition committee meetings, they are all listed on the pchomeless.org website with the links to join those meetings and register. So please join in if you have the time and interest. So now we can open the floor for just any announcements or updates that folks want to share with the larger group. We still got 51 folks in the room. So this is our good trouble section of the meeting. If we have something that hasn't been covered yet today and you'd like to share, this is the opportunity. And just use the raise hand function. Rosemary.
I don't know if Sharilla is still on the call, but she put in the chat information about a food bank that's available. And I don't know if everyone saw that, but Sharilla, if you're still here and wanted to comment on it, that'd be helpful too.
I am.
It looks
still
like
here.
she is,
Thank
yeah.
you. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Sorry for any background noise I have. Really quickly, the food bank is open at 4819 South 12th Street. It's from 12 to 2. We don't put any limits. We don't ask for ID. We don't just take what you want. You can pick up for other people. We have a very large supply. In fact, I have 150 something boxes. You don't have to take everything that's in the box. We have a separate area where if you just want to pick through and take what you want, that's more than welcome to do that as well. There's no restrictions. Just come and get it.
Thank you for that update. Great resource, Sharilla. Maureen.
Yeah, back to emergency management. One more piece. Do all of your organizations have any extreme weather emergency response plan? Something written down that any staff person, any volunteer knows where it is and what it means and what to do? Or is that something we might want to hold a separate, little 1 hour session on what ought to be in that? Does anybody have a plan?
So I can speak to, yeah.
1 hour session.
I can speak to the organization I work for does have a plan, but it's largely functional for the different programs that we have. But yeah, I think it'd be good to share, especially if folks have templates for plans that could be helpful for folks.
You know, because the ideal is first, you know, that stupid onion that Regine from DEM keeps talking about, it's in layers. And the first layer is, you know, the individual, your family, then it's your workplace. And that workplace doesn't matter if it's paid or volunteer, but if that workplace, and then it's what Pierce County or your local jurisdiction provides that you can't provide for your own individual family or your organization. And then after that, Pierce County DEM kicks in, and then it goes to the state after that in some magical way.
Yeah, great topic to bring up, Maureen. Anybody else with just go to the order items? All right, so do continue to use the chat if there's something you want to share there. And the last item on our agenda today is just to carve out some time to reflect on today's meeting and offer an opportunity if folks feel like there's some feedback you'd like to provide, what worked well today, what didn't, what things that we should add for next week's meeting. I will say that that feedback can be offered either by raising your hand now or dropping something in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with. I think Jan's first and then Ivan.
Yes, there was a lot of discussion about building a network and the role of the coalition in building a network of sites strategic throughout the county that can stock in advance emergency supplies. And I've, you know, having been intimately involved in both of the inclement weather incidents of 2021, water, blankets, and first aid supplies. We need both donations of and sites willing and a network that can manage communication and all of that. So already I've had 2 people chat privately to me, both of them associated with networks. Both are faith-based networks. So if there are others who have ideas, as far constructive ideas, not necessarily opinions are fine, but maybe another day. Any ideas, just let me know and I'd be willing to start the conversation.
Thank you, Jan. And Ivan, did you have something to add?
Thanks, Rob. No, I just wanted to highlight what Jenny put in the chat from our room when we talked about the Housing First model and the need to possibly discuss that more as a campaign or as a public service announcement. There's a lot of institutional knowledge in this team's meeting right now. Everyone's aware of the Housing First model, harm reduction principles, crisis intervention and such, but for the unaffiliated, folks may not be aware that, you know, in order for individuals to start to take the steps to address substance use or mental illness, they have to first have housing. And that's something we all agree with in this room, but what about the general public? And I just want to highlight that and turn to my roommates to see if they want to jump in on that conversation too.
Thanks, Ivan. And Mike.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with Jan. I didn't meet with the EOC at Puyallup and brought up the trailers, and they would give us space to park a trailer on city property up there. And so also I've talked with a couple churches, so it's when we start getting that plan together, let's talk. If not
Thanks,
sooner.
Mike. And Ivan again.
Mike just reminded me, I really want to thank Mike, Jan, and was it Mike and Jan? I feel like and Garrett, and of course Human Services was in our EOC for the recent winter weather response. It was excellent collaboration. So thank you, Mike Boyster and Janet Runback and all the Human Services partners.
Awesome. All right, so I do urge you, if you want to use the chat to provide additional feedback, that's great. We are trying to end these meetings around 10:50, and what do you know, it's 10:51. So let's wrap up today's regular meeting. I appreciate everybody being here, and I hope you have a safe weekend. We'll see you back next Friday. If you have an interest in helping us plan for next week's meeting, we're going to take a little 5-minute break and then do planning right after this. So thanks again, everybody.
Hey, Rob, are you guys having a meeting next week with the point in time count going on?
We are,
Okay.
but a bunch of us are going to be dang tired, I'm sure, because
we'll be out on Fridays. So
yeah, I'm unsure when I'm going out. I'm going to be going out as well. So I guess we'll say tentatively we're planning to meet.
Yeah, okay.
It might be short.
Yeah, I know. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Trish.